Coucou, it's Kim. Bienvenue from France. It is a lovely day. I am having what's called a piscine. For those of you who have not heard of this before, it's actually rosé on ice. And you would consider normally that the French would think this is a faux pas to put ice in their wine. This has become so much more common. Even after the 3 years that I've been living here, I have noticed that the French will actually ask for glaçon, which is ice, to put in their wine. And there's actually an official name for it. And you can see it on menus, especially if you are in like the Côte d'Azur, like the south of France on the Mediterranean Sea. There will be something on a menu like a champagne piscine or a rosé piscine. The word piscine in French actually means pool, like the swimming pool. And I looked up where this came from because I'm like, that's so interesting. It doesn't look like a swimming pool. And it actually came from Bridget Bardot having this huge glass of cognac in Saint-Tropez. And she said it reminds her, the size of it looks like a beautiful swimming pool. And so they started calling it a piscine. So that's the origin. But just if you are visiting France this spring or summer, don't be afraid to ask for a piscine on a hot day, which it is today. It's actually lovely and, kind of waters down like the alcohol, but in a good way when it's nice and cool and refreshing. So that is one small fact I wanted to share today. And my other small fact, I used to always wonder why the French during a certain time of year were obsessed with strawberries. So I have a bowl of fraise, which is the word for strawberry in France, because it is officially strawberry season. So it starts kind of like end of March through May. So it's pretty short. And I would say the French love strawberries this time of year because they are like no strawberries you've had in your life. They are so sweet. It literally tastes like you're biting into like the most delicious, like juicy sugar. And I would say the French are just like, they're everywhere right now. They're all over the market. They have huge displays at like every grocery store, and then they're gone. Like you literally cannot find strawberries for another, I would say 9 months. So it's a big deal here. So wanted to share, if you're also coming to visit or you live here, time to soak up the fraise because before we know it, they will be gone. So enjoy it while it lasts. That will introduce and kind of my little foray into our topic today. Our topic today is a bit heavy, but also wanted to just really share my own personal experience. So these are things I want to share what I wish I'd known before moving abroad. And moving abroad is a really big decision and not one that should be taken lightly. As I get a lot of questions on this, I actually talk to a lot of work colleagues in the evenings that are always like, oh, I want to move there. And my family and I are talking about it. Do you just love it? Are you so happy you did it? Yes. And yes. And I would say there's an and. It's also really, really hard. It's probably one of the hardest things that I've done in my life. And I would do it all over again. But I thought it would be helpful to share some things I wish I would have known before I moved abroad because I wouldn't say I went into it blind, but I would not say that I had a resource to really help me understand both like the emotional roller coaster and just a lot of the, I would say, things you're going to deal with as you both live abroad, whether that's for a year or continuing on for multiple years or for the rest of your life. These are things I think that will continue to come up. So with that said, I'm going to share a quick story for those of you that are just getting to know the podcast and what Coucou is all about. So Coucou is a friendly way to say hello. I started it with a friend of mine who I met here a couple of years ago. And the reason I started this podcast is I wished I had a resource like this when I was moving abroad. I felt really alone. I felt really in the dark. I tried to look up like, what's it like to live abroad and how do you figure things out and what is France like? And I just didn't really come across any great resources. And so I started this podcast. We're now 40 episodes in to really help just people to learn about both the French culture and those interested also in visiting or living abroad. And so when I would say this decision now has been over 4.5 years ago, my husband, it was after COVID, had an opportunity to take some time off of his very intense job. I also had a very intense job. And he kind of looked at me one evening and said, so is this just what life's all about? And I had no idea what he was talking about. We were having a nice glass of white wine. It was summer. We were living in Marin County, which for those of you not familiar is right over the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, a really beautiful little area. We'd just gotten a house that I was really, really happy in. It was kind of like legitimately a white picket fence house that I sort of dreamed about. And I would say in general, I was happy, but I thought I was happy, but I was also kind of deeply, like, I would say discontent with a lot of things and wasn't fully aware of that at the time. And it took me, I would say now, to really like learn a lot about myself to understand that there was something kind of deeper. And I think it's a lot of things that now I'm going to share. Like when we decided on this move, my husband brought it up. He said, there's got to be more to life than like subscribing to the American rat race. And like, all we're trying to do is just keep up to like get our kids into schools and afford the house and the car. And then we're going to need the next thing. And he wasn't wrong. Like I felt like I was kind of surviving. I definitely would not say I was thriving. We had two young kids, like 3 and 5-year-old at the time. And I was very hesitant. It took him a long time to sort of, I wouldn't say necessarily convince me, because I think I had it in me that I really wanted to go, but I was so scared, like scared of everything, scared of leaving family and friends behind, scared of how our kids might adapt, scared of living. And I had lived in another country when I was in college studying abroad, but this seemed different. This seemed like now we have a family and kids and there's so much more to think about. And I would say I wasn't comfortable at all with the idea. And I became more comfortable. I did a lot of research. I felt really happy when we found this house that kind of just made me smile and look at like, wow, there's another way to live that's also amazing and beautiful. So I agreed to it on I would say like stipulation that we were going to try it for 1 year. And if we liked it, we would figure out a way to stay. If we didn't, we would come back potentially somewhere not in California, just because it was very far from our families. And we would figure out life. And so with that, I would say, got myself comfortable. We made a decision to kind of get rid of like almost everything. So the house, almost everything we owned in the house, like all of our furniture. I basically posted a fire sale on Nextdoor, said, we're moving overseas, like come on in the house and take what you want. And I was kind of making up price tags. And like looking back, it felt crazy. I remember like crying, watching this couple take out this Pottery Barn chair that I'd like breastfed both of my babies in and was like, what am I doing? What are we doing? And just like literally getting rid of, I think we now have like one tiny storage unit left in California, and we moved here to a furnished home. So we pretty much don't own furniture. I got rid of like so many clothes, almost all the kids' toys, and it was terrifying. I'm not going to lie. It was so hard. It was like shedding an identity of myself, like the kids' strollers. I'm like, are they done with strollers? Like it was a lot. And look, I'm not going to like sugarcoat it. Like the night before we bought a one-way ticket we decided on the south of France for a multitude of reasons. Mostly, I would say schools, the weather, and the quality of life compared to Paris, for example, just seemed like a better fit for us coming from New York and San Francisco. We'd already kind of done the big city life with children and ourselves. So we sort of wanted a slower lifestyle. We booked a one-way ticket to Marseille, which is the closest airport to Aix-en-Provence, which is where we live now. And the night before in California, I remember I had this huge suitcase. Like, I think it was, I don't even know, like the size of this table. And I'm laying on top of it, like literally my entire body weight, like trying to force it shut. And I'm like yanking at the zipper and like there's tears streaming down my face and I'm yelling at my husband. And it was like this weird mix of emotions of fear, excitement, anger, like all of this all at once. And I finally zipped. I went to bed. We woke up, got on the plane. I was like, all right, we're doing this. And that I think at that point, you're kind of just like comfortable with it and you go for it because there's really no turning back at that point. You've like sold your entire life and you're doing it. And honestly, we got here and it was heavenly. Like it felt like vacation. I was so happy we were here. I was taking like a small break from work. I had never taken a break from work in my life and it just felt really good. Like I would say the beginning just felt like a vacation and I was so, so happy. And yes, it was definitely a good decision. But I would say 3 years in now, there are things I wish I would have known that now I will kind of share with you. One thing, you're never going to feel completely at home again. And this is a weird concept because it doesn't really make sense unless you've done something like this, but you're going to sort of always waffle back and forth in your head between loving where you live, like I do right now, but also like missing your home country so, so much. I can share that I have cried at more airports than probably a lot of people have visited in their life. And I don't mean that to be like snobby or obnoxious, but just to share with you that like, even when you travel and you get the opportunity to travel, which is so amazing, there's like this deep rooted sadness when you say goodbye to friends and family and things that are familiar that you love to get on a plane back to unfamiliarity and a language that isn't your own. And I would say you constantly question like whether you're doing the right thing, like whether you would rather have the familiarity and the comfort of your family and friends or this complete unfamiliar new situation with people that you don't quite know as well and haven't like known you your whole life. And sometimes you really get this like, oh, I'm going to move back. We're just going to do it. And you're constantly pulled in two directions. And it's interesting, like when you're here and you FaceTime with friends or family, you miss home and you miss home on, I miss home on American holidays, like Thanksgiving. I really miss home. It was just March Madness and watching the basketball games in like actual real time used to be something I loved doing with my husband. Now they're on like at 2 a.m. We have to watch them on delay. We never really do it because we've already seen the score, so it defeats the purpose. Just little things. I would say Halloween is another one. It's kind of big in France, but nowhere like the great celebration we have in the United States. And so when you're here, you miss home. And then when you're back in the United States, for me, for example, I'm like missing so many things from abroad and I'm like my life here. I'm just missing like the pace of life. I'm missing the food. I'm missing just my home now, I guess. And it's like you're in this two world all the time. Like you're here, you're counting down to when you visit the US again. And then when you're there, you're counting down to when you're leaving to go back to your now what's considered normal life here. And so you're just in this like questioning. And I've done a couple, I would say, episodes in the podcast, and I've done a lot of writing on this of like what home really means. And I can share that in another episode, but I've come around to this idea that like home has nothing to do with a physical place. And home is about where you yourself feel the most grounded and who you are meant to be in this world and where your people are. Like for me, that's my husband and my kids right now. And that is my home. And I think slowly I've started to really learn to live in that in-between space. I'm not fully always here and I'm not fully always from in the United States, but I somehow feel a connection to both. And I think that's just something, if you're thinking about moving abroad or you're currently moving abroad, if you share this same idea of like never really completely feeling at home, let me know your thoughts because I think it's one of the biggest things for sure. Okay, second thing, you become more comfortable being uncomfortable. And so you kind of underestimate, I would say, when you first move here, just how uncomfortable so many things will be. Like little things, big things. You take so many things for granted when you live in your home country. Like you just know how things work. You know all the cultural norms. You pretty much know how your day is going to unfold. You know what to expect. You kind of can predict a lot of things that will happen within a typical day. Here, like even the smallest things are completely uncertain. Like grocery shopping when you first move to another country is completely overwhelming. I remember trying to bake and I was so used to buying in the United States, like all-purpose flour. You come here, I'm not joking. There are 40 at least different types of flour with these like numbers like T55 and all, I don't even know. And none of them are going to say all purpose because they're specific flowers for completely specific things. And I actually love that now so much. Like I have a patisserie flower that like literally makes the best cakes ever. There's a special like pizza flower that my husband has learned to make the best pizza crust from a specific flower. So I love that. But when I first moved here, like I was just like, seriously, like just show me what flower I'm supposed to buy. And it sounds simple, but there's 8 million examples of that in a grocery store and it takes you forever and you end up being really frustrated because you can't just figure out how to make a recipe you used to make or even just a simple recipe because you have to relearn both what things are and the language that they're in. Then there's like just little things like you want to get a shopping cart and you have to get a coin. So you have to like go to a counter, ask for a coin, then put a coin in. They're chained together so you can't get them out unless you put the coin in. Did not know this. I'm like yanking at the chain. The French people are staring at me. You know, it's like this embarrassing moment. No clue how this works culturally. And apparently it's just a normal thing. So you get used to it, but it's very uncomfortable. Then you think like stoplights, right, are a pretty normal thing. Like green, yellow, red, you know what to do. There's no stoplights here. Well, not none, but there's very, very few. Everything is a roundabout. They could have like 5 exits. They could have 10 exits. There could be double lanes in a roundabout. And you just have to navigate and learn like all of the roundabout rules and who has the right of way when and what lane you're supposed to be in and when it's okay to get off and when it's not. And so just again, like little things that may seem simple can be very challenging. And then also like just the unpredictability of the day. Like we live as like in a small alleyway and like there's only one way in and one way out, and you can barely squeeze your car through. And for example, there might be like a repairman who's parked his truck for the day just in your alleyway. So you can't get your car out. You need to pick your kids up from school. You're all stressed out. You don't know what to do. Or the opposite, you can't get your car back in the garage. So then you have to go find a parking garage. It's like impossible to ask someone to move. So I'm saying this not to complain, but just to tell you about the unpredictability that happens and you are completely unaware of it. And then there's like also just like random street performances or strikes that are pretty big in France that just shut down absolutely everything. And because I don't really read the news in French, which I'm now learning to do, I don't know that these things are coming. And so then I'm surprised. And obviously this is my own problem, but then it's like kind of messing up the whole day of what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm supposed to be going. And anyways, those are things. But then there's also just the language. So like you're trying to speak, I sound like a toddler most days at a good day. I'm trying to understand. So I'm like deeply listening to what someone's trying to say. And I would say like in the first year or two, like these things really start to aggravate you. Like they compound. There's a day when you like can't speak French and then you're also like, stopped by a random street performance and something else goes wrong and you're just like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? This is so unpredictable. You're so uncomfortable. And then I would say what happens over time is you become kind of like, I wouldn't say numb, but you sort of just go, okay, like that happened and I'm okay with it. And I couldn't have predicted it, but there's no reason for me to get upset about it. And you kind of get this like quiet confidence of like, I can get through this. Like I've gotten through a lot of different things. I have gotten stuck in parking garages. I have like had someone laugh at me in my face speaking French. I've had a lot of things that have happened. And you realize like you're going to be okay and you're going to figure things out. And you can exist in that certainty and be okay. And to be honest, the next things you encounter like don't seem hard. Like I could basically now, I would say, travel alone to a lot of countries and feel comfortable, even if I didn't speak the language, just because I have a little bit more confidence in how I could get myself around and what things I would know I would need to do. And I don't know, now I'm like, there's something pretty cool about that. That is a very different version of myself than would have been 3 years ago. Okay, on that, the third thing, I would say the lows are really, really low and the highs are really, really high. So what do I mean by that? As I just mentioned, there's going to be some really hard days. Like you're going to be more frustrated and angry sometimes than you ever thought possible between the language or the administration, I would say in France is unbelievable. Like renewing, getting a visa, going to the prefecture, like dealing with all the things is like a lot for sure. And then there's just little things like sidewalk etiquette. It doesn't really exist in France. Like someone's not going to move over because you're walking faster than them. They are okay walking 4x4 across and nobody's going to like bother to, move over because you're trying to get by. So like, just don't let those things bother you. I would say like, just know that that's cultural and it's just different from your own culture. And I think you can be okay with that, but you're also going to like learn to settle for things that you may not have in the United States. Like, for example, I was trying to make pork pastor tacos. Don't ask me why. I just really miss Mexican food. And I found a recipe and it called for pork shoulder. And so I tried to order that. I think the butcher was telling me they didn't really have it, but then he said this was close. And I realized it was more like pork tenderloin. And instead of arguing, I was just like, ça va, which means it's fine. I'll take it. And you just kind of make it work and you get over it. And then you also just like get over little conveniences that you used to love. Like there's no such thing as Amazon same day delivery. You're just not going to find that. Amazon probably takes, I would say at least 4 days minimum, sometimes more, but at least there's Amazon. So that's a good thing for at least Americans like me who are used to some convenience. You're not going to probably get like a refrigerator that's big and makes automatic like water and ice when you press a button. That just doesn't exist. I have like a Barbie sized washer and dryer that I was like, oh, that's kind of cute when I first moved here. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so much laundry and I have to like dry things at least 3 or 4 times to actually get them dry. So, I'm just literally naming kind of lows, and these aren't really huge lows. They're just, I would say, inconveniences that start to kind of weigh on you if you are letting yourself be in a place where things bother you a lot. And if I would say the thing that really helps me is like learn to appreciate the highs because they are really, really high. Like there's just this magic of experiences and beauty. And I've never had where like all 5 senses can be literally awakened at once. Like you can kind of see if you are watching this, like this is like our garden and you can literally smell lavender, be swimming in a pool, like have this beautiful glass of piscine rosé and look up at like this really blue sky with like amazing flowers and be like, oh my gosh, this is heaven. And it's so beautiful and amazing. And it just really like makes you smile. And then there's like personal things with like your family and your kids. Like I can walk away and like listen to my kids like be singing in the bath in French and giggling. And it just like makes me really happy. And I watch them like to the bus and back, like ride their scooters and they can weave in between little alleyways and like say something in French to someone and then go back to speak to me in English. And it's just like this seamless sort of lifestyle that they have ingrained so comfortably in. And it's just really, really cool. And then I was really happy the last couple of weeks. This has happened to me now like 5 times and it's kind of awesome. I have had French people, women and men, stop me and ask me for directions. Like they think I'm native. They think I speak French and they actually think I could help them with directions. I mean, it's hilarious because one, I probably don't know where I completely am. I couldn't name a street. I'm also just in general really bad with directions, much less like windy alleyways and roads in French. But I just love the compliment that they must consider like I'm looking very native these days. I don't know. And yeah, and they're asking me for directions. So just kind of gives you that little bit of like confidence of that was kind of a high that I've learned to like adjust and fit in comfortably here. So I think again, it's this contrast that I think is really powerful that you can appreciate the highs and you can have some like, I would say acceptance for yourself of these are low lows and be comfortable in both and pause and just like appreciate that this is your life and that you get the opportunity to experience both of those things. Everything you thought was normal is going to shift. So like things I just took for granted. I didn't realize in school as an American growing up, we like pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. I don't know if they still do this. I don't think so. But we are really taught, I would say, especially my generation as a millennial, to be pretty like self-absorbed that America is the best country. We were taught that like everyone wants to live there, if you never live anywhere else, like you really could grow up believing that your entire life. And that's fine. I would say obviously a lot of things have changed in the United States. I'm not going to get into like political climate or anything like that, but I think there's more realization that like there are other ways of living and there are other ways to live, and normal doesn't have to be one version of just the American way. And I have really learned to appreciate that here. I think when you live somewhere where you surround yourself from people with people all over the world, your perspective just naturally really changes. And I think you start to really question your own culture, and not in necessarily just a bad way. I think in a good and bad way. Like there's so many things about the American culture I never saw that I really appreciate. Like I had no idea that Americans were like so full of optimism in a lot of ways. And I know it doesn't seem that way if you're living in the US right now, but the French tend to be very negative people. Like once you start really learning their language and peeling back the onion, like almost most French expressions are actually pretty negative, and they tend to be jump to the negative first, and they're very rigid, like, and they follow rules, and their schools are like very strict. And I think in the US, like in like self reinvention and ingenuity and creativity is very valued. And I love that about the American culture that I really took for granted and just thought, again, that was normal. And living somewhere else, as I've peeled back the onion and really gotten deep into the French language and culture, I've learned to appreciate that more about the American culture and sort of say, I don't love that about the French culture. So just little things like that. And then I would say also like things that I question about the American culture, like, why was I always rushing so much? Like, why does every American want more? Like, why do they not get satisfied with the concept of like, I have a good life. This is enough. Like, I don't need to compare myself to everyone else and like keep needing the bigger house and the better car and the better vacation and XYZ. And I think those questions just start to come up in every aspect of your life. So you kind of see your home country more clearly. And I think you see like what you want to choose from your home country that you embrace more of, and what you want to choose from your, let's call it adopted country, that you intentionally want to incorporate into your own life. And you kind of get to live with that dimensionality, which I think is very cool. And I also love raising kids here because they really just start to ask a lot of questions about other cultures and religions and foods and rules and just everything. Like my son has the world map up and like labels where each of his friends are from, so he can really like understand the world and like where people live. And, you know, my kids, even though they were born in the United States, they left pretty young, and they don't have this blind assumption that the country they were born in is the best. They kind of recognize differences, like not necessarily as bad, but more like meant to be respected and appreciated. And, oh, that's just the way that culture does that versus this culture. And so I think, you know, in short, they're just learning to be more open-minded and adapt, I would say, to different people and circumstances, which I don't know, I think is really cool. It wasn't something I had as a little kid. And I'm just really happy that we're exposing our children to that right now. This is also interesting. Not everyone is going to understand your choice. So when you share the decision to move, like after you've gone through all the internal turmoil, you've finally come to the decision, you're ready to share it with your friends and family, and you've kind of gotten to yourself to a place of you're excited about it. So you really want to share. And you expect people around you, like friends, family, to be excited and happy for you, right? Like you're like, oh my gosh, let's pop a bottle of champagne. Let's celebrate. And what you actually may find, and I hope you don't, but I definitely did, was like completely the opposite reaction. I had so many people tell me that we were crazy. I had people ask if we were running away from something. I had people, I would say especially mom friends, tell me, oh my gosh, this was your husband's idea. Oh, you know what? I bet he's going through, like, he just turned 40. I bet he's going through a midlife crisis. You know, why don't you send him on a guy's weekend and he'll get over this? And I mean, just a million things. I would say also, like, even just your own parents are not probably going to understand this, because I would say just generation wise, like it's not something that was as common to do in their generation as it is necessarily in our generation. And so these things they're not trying to hurt you. They will hurt. I'm not going to lie. They still sort of, I would say, affect me when I hear things like that. But I've come to realize when people have these reactions, it's actually not about you. It's really about what your decision is bringing up in them. And when I realized this, it like the light bulb went on for me. And it was like they are dealing with their own maybe regret, maybe fear, maybe distance, maybe sadness, like maybe even a path they could have chosen but didn't. And I would say like when you know that it's not about you, it helps you to not let this sway your decision, to not get too upset, to not feel guilty if you are living abroad, to come back if you're not ready to come back. And I'm just going to say, like, trust me, this is so much easier said than done. Like, I feel a lot of pressure, guilt, anger, sadness from those like that I love most. And it definitely hurts very, very much. And I know this firsthand, but I also really try to remember that like this is my life. I have my own family. I'm happy here. And I feel like we are making the best choice for our family and what's in our hearts. And we are standing inside that decision despite what other people think and say. So I would say just understand that like it may not be the celebration that you expect when you're ready to tell people or expect them to like share in your happiness with you. Okay, I'm going to end on a positive note. So I think if you do decide to move abroad or if you're living abroad, I think you'll agree, you will collect like a lifetime of moments. Like it's not about a place anymore. You're getting these like everyday moments just as yourself, as your family. Like I probably remember more in the last 3 years living here than I do in 10 years living in the United States. It's like the stories, the little moments, the mistakes, the surprises, the things that go right somehow become like really great memories. And there's like so many of those. So, traveling, if you decide to live in Europe is, as many of you know, is just incredible. Like so many countries are so close and they offer like a completely new world and experience of a different culture and food and life. And it's super, super cool. And we've done things like just pack up the car, no plan, drive over the border to Italy or Spain and like discover things. And those actually tend to be the best trips, like not the ones that you tried to check every must-see box and like cram 3 things into a day and do a million things in like a short amount of time. Like I would actually highly recommend against that. Like a few great unexpected experiences are going to add to more moments and memories than you checked off everything on, I don't know, whatever list you're following that you need to from what someone else said you need to see in some place. Like just don't listen to that. Not worth it. And also like the unexpected things tend to be the things the kids remember the most. One quick story. When we first arrived here, we had a rental car and we actually didn't charge our rental car and we had to get towed. And they actually tow you while you're still sitting in your car, which is shocking. And so my kids still remember that because we're literally like going up and they're sitting and still in their like car seats in the back and we're like on the tow truck still in our car. Anyways, just funny story and things they still talk about to this day. So yes, I would say like just enjoy slow travel. You're making big memories and these are definitely lifetime experiences. Lastly, okay. So I would say every place over time has its complexities. Like this is not, even if you think you've moved to the most perfect place, it's not going to be perfect. Like you are going to bring your life with you no matter where you go. You're going to bring yourself, your problems, your insecurities, your relationship challenges. And changing is really an inside job. Like I think we all know this, but somehow I think we sort of also believe that if we change our surroundings, everything else is going to change. Like maybe that can happen for a week or two, but definitely not over time. And I think if you really want to understand yourself, like understand that every place is going to have different complexities and they're just trade-offs. And I think you begin to understand that fulfillment is not about finding the perfect place, but it's really like how you choose to live and who you decide to become in whatever place you decide to live. So with that, okay. So if you are kind of on the edge of this decision and you're like, should I make this leap, Kim? Should I not? I'm not going to tell you the answer to that. What I'm going to tell you is if you decide to do it, it will stretch you. It will challenge you. It's going to change you. It's going to give you a version of your life that you could have never imagined before. It's going to be beautiful, horrifying, disorienting, and expansive. It's going to be all those things and sometimes all at the same time. And people ask, like, would you choose this again? Like, even knowing what you know now, like, even knowing how hard it is, even knowing like the homesickness, the discomfort, the questioning, the challenges, I would still say yes, absolutely. Like, it has expanded my life in ways I couldn't have imagined. It's changed how I see the world. It's changed how I think about myself. It's allowed me to like become a better version of myself and how I want to live my life. And I'm so much more clear on that now than I would have been. And that's something I definitely wouldn't trade. So if you are looking to make that decision, I wish you the best of luck. And if there's anything I can do to help, I'm also here as a resource. So please reach out. And thank you again for listening. And be sure to follow us on cuckoo.pod. And I will talk to you again soon. Au revoir. Bye-bye.